And it looks like we're live. It looks like the third time is actually the charm. This is my third live stream. And if you've been watching my previous streams, you know that I've had some issues with OBS. So excuse me if I can't wipe the smile off my face right now. I finally got this thing working the way I want it to. It turns out I guess what I have to do is basically reset, or not reset, but I have to start the live stream and the recording manually. Otherwise, this system just does not work the way I would like it to work. And so I do notice one thing I need to correct, and I guess part of being live and all that stuff, I still to this point keep on forgetting to set the cameras as far as making sure they don't do autofocus and stuff like that. It's just, this is what I have to do each time. So I'm gonna go to my demo screen here, and there you see the live stream. But let me do, I guess let's do front, turn off PowerPoint. All right, so there's my demo screen, and what I'm going to do is show you kind of what I have to do every time I start a stream, and this is the one thing that I keep on forgetting to do. So let me see here. Let's go to all on stream. That'll work. So I have 4 cameras, as you probably see there, and you might notice that they autofocus. So if I do that with my hand, go away, stuff like that, it autofocuses, it does white balance correction, and that kind of causes a problem when I try to, when I go to actually churn out a video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually set these up, and I think I did this in the last stream. This is like the last thing that I got to get used to doing, is to set my defaults. For some reason, the driver for the Logitech C920 webcams, they don't allow you to set a default and just stay with it. Every time your computer restarts or anything like that, you essentially have to go back in and change the settings on the cameras. And I gotta get used to it, and I have this whole process that I do before the live stream now, where I get my water ready, I set up the recording devices, I make sure the microphones are on and all that stuff. And for some reason, this is just the one part that I keep messing up. And so maybe for me, the 4th time will be the charm on this particular issue. So give me one sec, almost there. I got a couple more to go. To tell you honestly, tonight I don't plan on using all these cameras. I just got to get in the process of doing it here. So turn that off, apply, and one more. And I've literally done all kinds of searching on this, and if you're experienced with the Logitech the C920, and you have a way of getting these settings to stick, please reach out to me and let me know, because for some reason, I mean, after all the research I've done, I still am getting nowhere with getting it stuck, getting the settings locked in. I mean, so I got that, and I mean, I've used the software that actually comes with the camera and that you can download online, and it seems that no matter what I do, I can't get this to actually do what I want it to do. So if I go back to demo, and now that I'm not messing with my actual OBS, you'll actually get to see what I'm talking about here. So I can go to the Logitech software here, and I leave all the cameras on while I'm recording, so that when I transition from one to the other, I don't have to change, or wait for a delay in the camera change or anything like that. But if I go to advanced here, you'll see that now I've made the changes. What I typically do is I go to white balance and I turn that off. I turn auto on that off, and I hit default, then apply, and then I go to camera control and I'll turn off auto exposure and auto focus. And I'll apply that and hit OK. And that's essentially what I got to do every time I do a stream. And I've literally been missing it every time. But I'm just super stoked right now that in my third live stream, I've actually been able to get this stream not only started the way I wanted it to, but actually started on time. So since the last live stream, I've made one change in particular. You see the mic here, and basically this mic right here is just there as a backup right now, because I found that I like to move around, and the problem with moving around is it creates an issue when you're actually recording. You get a lot of echo and stuff like that, because I'll go all the way back here and try to describe something, or go to my whiteboard over here, or I got a lot on this desk. It's not only a whiteboard, but it's actually a couple of different things I got set up for. So I plan on using this desk over here quite a bit, and you'll see in the background I have a webcam here, and then I got another webcam over here, and then I got my backup recording here, which turns out to be pretty echoey because it's actually capturing the ambient sound, I guess you could say. If I have the boom mic on, which I don't have on right now, but if I have the boom mic on, I actually have that connected to this recorder here, so that not only does it get fed to my soundboard, but it also records it on here prior to it going to the soundboard, so that I have a backup on that, as well as these two fronts are actually recording. And then, so I have it in 4-channel mode. I also have the Zoom, and I talked about that in the previous stream. I have another audio recorder called, it's the Zoom version. It's the, I'm probably messing up my ambient sound here right now, but it's the H4N Pro. And I see I'm topping that sucker out right now, so I'll probably have to lower the input to that. But basically, what I got going on with it, and I can actually lower that sound. Let me do that right now. Testing, 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 test. Testing, testing, test, 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 test. Okay, cool. And I think I got, I messed that up with online too, but let's see if we can get this corrected. Testing, 1, 2, test, test, test. Testing, 1, 2, test, test, test. Okay, that thing isn't topping out now, at least it's not topping out like it was. Anyway, so there's some settings I got going on here. I'm trying to get everything back to where I want it, but one of the things I changed is I got a lavalier mic with a wireless pack on it. just because I got really tired of moving around the room or doing something and either not adjusting the mics correctly or not having a good recording in the end. So the way I got set up right now is that Zoom recorder that I have is actually recording on 4 channels, and one of the channels is this one right here, and then one of the other channels, it's got 2 mics on the front of it, so it's recording stereo on 2 of the channels. The 3rd channel is this mic, and then the 4th channel is the output from the soundboard. So I have a backup copy basically of what comes through the soundboard. So I'm using, again, all 4 channels. And since I don't have anything except for like if I play some kind of computer audio, everything's pretty much mono. I don't have anything set up as like a stereo setup. So therefore it works if I have those channels set up on there. That way I have a backup of everything. So if you were to see, if I change it from, let's go to front cam, let's see, mobile cam, that might work. So if you see in the background here, I have, that is a new Shure GLX D4 receiver, and I have the mobile mic set up so I can actually, again, move around. It's close to me and things like that, so I can actually do a better job of recording myself. So if you were with me during my first live stream where I was quite nervous and I did a bunch of babbling and stuff like that, especially when it came to my actual hardware rig or my computer rig. I described what processor I had in it and stuff like that, and I misrepresented it as being a 32-core 64 thread, and it's not. It's never been that. It's actually a 16-core 32 thread Threadripper, and 32 gigs of RAM and stuff like that. But you know, the first stream I was quite nervous, and that was mostly due to the fact that the stream just did not start up the way I wanted it to start up. I had technical difficulty on that one. After that stream, I actually worked very hard on making sure I tested everything and that everything worked the way it was supposed to, as far as you know, as far as like the Elgato Stream Deck and all that stuff. You know, I don't have really a mobile camera, so I would move my camera around and show you, you know, what all I have set up and stuff like that. However, you know, getting the Elgato Stream Deck set up and all that going, I tested it before the second stream, went to go start the second stream, it failed, and then had to basically restart my computer and everything. So again, super excited that this is the first stream where everything started off the way it was supposed to. So that being said, where I was going with that is if you started with me on my streaming series of trying to record, in the first stream I tried to do some video for my actual content that I'm putting together. And in that process, I did some whiteboard demonstration. So I used, if you go to my bench here, I used the whiteboard demonstration and did a lot of network diagrams and stuff like that. But the problem that you're going to see is up in this corner, I have, of course, the video of me talking to the camera, which is all fine and dandy, and that's kind of what I want it to be able to do. But the problem is when I was doing the drawing, I was drawing up here as well, and it cut off some of the information. So pretty much all the video that I had from that first stream, I couldn't really use it for the content in the quality I wanted it. So I described a lot of things. I've worked very hard on making sure the content I provided was correct. I also had an issue of, again, first-timers' nerves and just babbling a lot, and kind of like I'm doing now, but worse. I mean, I was getting words wrong, I was messing up. I'm sure the whole thing is pretty much a pretty good gag reel, to tell you the truth. But if you look, the way I have this set up is I plan on doing demonstrations here soon. So I have the whiteboard here, which I can do drawings and stuff like that and kind of explain things. I find that when I taught at UEI and the different colleges I taught at, or the private colleges I taught at, I learned very quickly that you have different types of students. You have students that work with audible information, okay? That's the kind of student that could turn off the video and actually learn something from me just by listening, just minimize and listen. You got your visual learners that are okay looking at slides, and then you got your people that actually have to touch it. Well, unfortunately, like through YouTube, I can't really give you the physical touch of the hardware. But what I plan to do with this desk is, other than the whiteboard, if you look right below it, I actually have a static pad, or anti-static pad, with my anti-static wrist strap. If you're going to work on hardware, CompTIA's suggestion is that you use these. It used to be very important that you use these because back in the day, just the littlest static or electrostatic discharge on a component would ruin it and just destroy it. But now, most components, unless it's like RAM or something like that, I mean, you don't want to make a deal with the devil and basically, take the hardest risk. But not a lot of people use these anymore. They're always good to use. It's a protection of your hardware. So I have the anti-static mat here, and and I have it properly hooked up. It's going through my surge suppressor, and it's connected to ground. And then, of course, I got this set up for the whiteboard and stuff like that. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is, because I had my boom mic set up incorrectly, as far as it's a shotgun mic. I thought I had it set up in a way that it would catch the audio cleanly, and because I had certain things, and I was really like focusing on just trying to do a good live stream, however good that could be, being the first one and everything. I misstepped on some audio. So where I talk to the camera and I do the demonstration here, if you go back to my first live stream, you'll see me do that. I'm doing a demonstration and I'm talking to this camera here in front of me. The issue came up that the audio was shoddy at best. So I would have to do a lot of voiceover, and I just don't have the time for that, really. Not only that, at the end of the video where I actually came back and I tried to do some description or talk to the camera here, the audio was really shoddy or bad. So that led me to get that lavalier mic, because it just, hopefully, as you've seen the video so far, the audio has stayed in sync, and it's actually, stayed the way I wanted it. So it's actually not too echoey. The room is kind of a little bit echoey. I plan on changing that here soon. I got to recover a little bit from some of the expenses, and my wife's going to kill me if I go too much further with this stuff. But yeah, the whole thing is I want to have good audio quality and stuff like that. So what I've done is I'm basically going to repeat what I did in the first stream as far as like covering the first objectives out of the CompTIA Net Plus N10-007 exam guide. And basically I'm gonna try to do some actual video this time, and I'm gonna do it differently. I'm not gonna use the whiteboard this time. I'm actually gonna use some material that I've put together and kind of go from that point of view. And the one video I want to get out so I can start this whole thing and keep going is I'm going to go over the objective. Again, if you go on to CompTIA's website, you can download the latest objectives that they want you to know to pass that exam. And so my plan is to go through, I have version 4 of the exam objectives, and I want to basically create smaller videos than my past videos. And instead of covering whole chapters, I'm going to refer to a chapter, and then I'm also going to do smaller videos so that people that have short attention spans can come watch the video for the information that they want that particular time, and then move on or whatever, go on to the next video if they want to continue or take a break, things like that. So in this video that I'm going to try to record tonight, and I'm going to do it during the live stream, is I'm going to try again and record network types. I'm going to discuss LAN, wireless LAN, MAN, WAN, CAN, SAN, and PAN. And in that, I'm also going to discuss peer-to-peer networks, client-server networks, and the difference between a workstation and server, and what a host is, what a node is. And that pretty much covers the first part of Chapter 1 of the book that I'm using as a guideline. So once you look at my slides and stuff, you'll see that I refer to a book. And the current book I'm working out of is a book by McGraw-Hill, and it's their 7th edition, and it's the CompTIA Net Plus official guide, or authorized guide, and it's on the N10-007, or I've been calling it 007 objectives for the Net Plus. So I'm just going to go through it section by section, and the plan is, and the way I plan to do the videos is I plan to actually use the book, and I've always done this even when I've taught classes. Like when I taught for private colleges, I taught the same way, as in I would use the book as a guide, but I would create my own material for the most part, because I personally, I don't know about you, but when I went to a local college, I had a very, I had a very bad experience with my instructor. And what he would do is he would assign a chapter for the class to read like on a Monday. And then on a Tuesday, we would come in and he would basically read the chapter word for word, paragraph by paragraph the very next day, and that was all the class was. We weren't given hands-on, the information wasn't explained to us, things like that. So you were kind of stuck on your own, and unfortunately I was in the industry at that point, well, not unfortunately, I'm happily glad that I was part of the industry at that point, but the problem is a lot of times when another student would ask a question, he would turn to me for the answer, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm paying for this class too, so like it'd be nice if you did your part because you are the instructor. So I've kind of lived with that philosophy. I had a mentor in high school, and the guy will never take the credit for being my mentor, not because he doesn't like me. He was just not the type to accept, credit that you gave him. You would say, "Hey, man, you're the reason why I'm here," and he'd be the first to tell you, "No, it's not me." And a very humble guy. His name was Philip, and I'll just say last name is L. The letter L. I'm not going to give out his full name. He's not even on Facebook. He's not on LinkedIn. He's not on anything. I've been trying to find him for a while. But he was my mentor, and he was a mentor of a lot of students that went to the same high school I went to. And shortly after going to that high school, I started working for that high school, and he was my mentor for like 6-7 years and got me a good foothold into the industry. And he was always about sharing the information, sharing the knowledge, and doing what he could to help people out. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's why I want to do things pretty much for free, as far as like, if I make a little money out of this, that'd be awesome. But if I don't make any money out of this, and all I do is make enough money to either recoup what I've put into it, or just make enough to get nicer equipment where I can actually do nice camera views and stuff like that, other than talking to a webcam, hey, that's all the better as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. I've been hemming and hawing the last couple of live streams of like whether I want to monetize the videos or not, and I've come to the conclusion that even though I started off not wanting to monetize the videos, I'm essentially going to have to. And the reason why I'm going to have to is the way, and if I'm wrong, correct me, because I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I'm wrong with something. But one of the things is that YouTube will not promote your videos if you don't monetize. And so my thing is I want to get out there and help as many people as possible. And I want to help them as much as I can for free. So at this point, if it takes them having to sit through a 30-second or 15 or a skip ad or something like that, or have to use an ad blocker, I'm probably going to have to do that, because that seems to be the only way I'm going to get YouTube to promote my channel. And whether I get monetized or demonetized or all this stuff that all these other YouTubers are complaining about, I guess I'm going to just have to take that chance. So starting the channel, I didn't want to. The first 5 or 6 videos I've made in the past, I didn't do monetization on it. It looks like I'm not going to get away without doing it. And so what I plan to do with this channel as it grows, and I'm going to do my best to grow the channel. As the channel grows, I'm going to actually figure out ways of giving back. So if I make some change on the monetization, and I want to do like giveaways of you know, vouchers for certification, or maybe work something out. I do not have any kind of sponsorship from Safari Books Online. It's just something I really like, and it's done a lot for me. So I tend to talk a lot about stuff that I like and that's done well for me, and Safari Books Online is one of them. So maybe in the future I can work out something with them that, you know, do giveaways on like memberships or something, like a year membership or something like that, so other people can experience how good that system is. You know, because as much as you watch my videos, whether you're watching this live or the posts I leave up after, you know, the whole idea is to give people information, and I know that my videos are not the end-all be-all, and sometimes, as I said, learners have to learn visually. Some learners have to learn visually, they have to learn audibly, and sometimes they have to touch the equipment to actually get it. I used to tell my students in class that, you know, I can teach you in class all day long. We can sit here for 2 hours a night. We can, whatever the case is, but nothing is gonna teach you more than like the first 3 months of on the job actually working with the stuff. The first 3 months of a job, you're gonna learn more than I could ever teach you in the classroom. Unfortunately, you can't get on the job until you actually get the training. So, but the downside is I think I'm gonna have to monetize. The upside of that is I think depending on how many views I get and subscribers I get, and if anyone supports me on Patreon, all that stuff, whether it comes from YouTube or it comes from Patreon, all that stuff is going to actually be rolled back into the channel. And I've talked with wife, she signed off on it. Basically, I just want to make better and better content and go from there. So tonight we're going to do objective 1.5 of the CompTIA Net Plus certification objectives, what you need to know to actually pass. So I'm going to again cover the different network types, which is LAN, wireless LAN, MAN, WAN, CAN, SAN, and PAN. And I'm going to cover some other topics in that, and hopefully you learned something. So if you're watching the live stream, if you have questions while I'm actually going through this, feel free to leave a comment or leave it in the chat message. And what I'll do is I'll do my best to actually answer your question in the process. So let's get with it. So I'm going to set up really quick to get to where I'm ready to record. Let me get this up, get the PowerPoint up. Okay, so hopefully you guys like my new graphics and stuff. I really been working hard on coming through, and I think I'm finally at the point where I think I'm going to be able to produce a lot of videos quickly, just because I've used each one of these live streams as a testing ground and a learning curve, and this being my third one, I think I finally got...
There's an echo.
Oh, there's an echo. Okay. So the wife just told me there's an echo. So let me see if I can correct that real quick. The wife tells me there's an echo. Okay. So I don't know where the echo would be coming from right now. Let me see if I can listen to myself real quick. I'm going to put it on mute real quick and just see what kind of echo she's talking about here. One sec. So I'm going to talk, and then, hold on. I'll put it on mute real quick and just see what kind of echo she's talking about here. One sec. So I'm going to talk, and then, hold on. Yeah, I think that's something I can take care of in post. So my wife says that there's an echo. I don't know if anyone else is hearing an echo, but I have no reason to doubt her on it. However, that's something I'm going to go ahead and try to fix in post. But let's get on to it. I'm going to work on actually showing you guys, again, the network types, and we'll go from there. So I think what I'm going to do is just go through it, and whether this is a dry run or an actual recording. Of course, as I've described before, all of the live stream is actually recorded, and I can use it for the actual content. So that's where I'm going with it. And if I have to do some voiceover, I guess I gotta do some voiceover. So what we're gonna do is, yeah, here we go. So let's do this. And okay, so here you're going to see the welcome screen and stuff. I'll put other voice in stuff on this, and I'll try to transition back and forth between showing the slide and actually, I guess, showing my lovely face. I don't know if anyone cares to see my face, but we'll just go from there. So what we're going to do is this is covering, again, the CompTIA Net Plus N10-007 exam objectives. And this is unauthorized, so I am not authorized by CompTIA to train this course. Again, I'm just doing it to help people out, and hopefully I do. The book I'm using is, again, the CompTIA Net Plus Certification Guide, 7th edition. This book is by Glenn Clark, and it's published by McGraw-Hill. It came out in August of 2018. And in the actual content, I will include links to the description, links in the description of where you can not only find the book, but purchase it if you want, or if you want, go ahead and use Safari Books online. I am currently working out of the CompTIA Net Plus Certification Exam Objectives. And this is version 4 of those objectives. I always say it's very important that you go back and you check CompTIA's site frequently, as the objectives sometimes change. And they publish these changes online and on their website, of course. And unfortunately, the only bad thing about their website is when you go there, you have to fill out a form to get access to the actual exam objectives. So they tend to send you email and kind of advertise to you a little bit. So just be aware of that. But since they are the ones that authorize and run the exam, you're kind of stuck with going to them for that. So again, a link can be found in the description of any of my videos on where to get access to this and download it. So this video is going to cover Objective 1.5, and Objective 1.5 wants you to compare and contrast the characteristics of network types. It also wants you to know network topologies and the different technologies. So after this video, I will be producing 3 more videos on this actual objective for the Net Plus exam. Okay, so tonight we're going to cover, or in this video, we're going to cover LANs, MANs, CANs, PANs, wireless LANs, and WANs, and SANs. Some of the terminology you should know when studying, and this is terminology that CompTIA wants you to know. All these were actually pulled from Wikipedia, so you can find these terms yourself. Wikipedia is public domain, so these are pretty much word for word, just blurbs from Wikipedia. I'm not going to include links to Wikipedia where I got these. If you search local area network or you search wireless LAN or anything like that, you will find the full definitions, and it does a very good job of describing each one of these. But briefly, you can go over this and actually see what each of the definitions are. In the actual video I produce, or the content I put out there, I will pause this for a short second, usually about 5 seconds, so that you can hit pause yourself and get the definitions from this screen. So again, those are the terms for those. And then we have terms for PAN, peer-to-peer, client server, hosts, and nodes. Now, in this video, I am not going to cover in detail peer-to-peer or client server or describe. If you follow the same book that I referenced earlier, Chapter 1 covers all this, and it describes about what servers are, workstations are, and things like that. Some of that stuff, I'm not going to cover it in detail in this video. I will mention it and I will describe some of it, but it is not detailed in the objectives as something that you need to know from CompTIA. I think for the most part, CompTIA expects that if you're at Net Plus, you've already previously passed the A+ exam. Okay, right now the current exam is the 220-901, which is basically the essentials, or the foundation as they call it. And then there's the applications side of it, and that's the 220-902. So when you go to an exam that's considered above, like A+ is down here, Net Plus is up here, when you go to exam up here, they assume that you know this already, okay? So again, those are not covered in the objectives for this exam. So I will mention them, but they'll be more of just trying to describe the actual network layout to you. So let's get with it here. So we have objective. Again, we're going to talk about, well, sorry, cut that, go back. Rough and dirty here. So now we're going to talk about LANs and wireless LANs. So in a LAN, the important thing to know about LANs is, and we're talking about local area networks, typically local area networks are private networks. You will not find a public local area network unless a business has decided to allow external customers to connect to their network. Typically that's a one-off or a group of customers or contractors. But a typical LAN will look kind of like this, and what's important to understand about a LAN is it's typically confined to one building or a house, and I'll show that example here shortly. But what you see here is an example of a client-server network, and it's set up as a LAN. So you have your firewall. Let me get this going here. You got your firewall connected to the internet. So internet and cloud are essentially the same exact thing. The reason why the internet has been called the cloud is because in IT, in network diagrams, we've always depicted the internet as a cloud, and some savvy marketer caught wind of that and decided that that's a new marketing term. But any IT professional that's been in the industry for a while will tell you that that's how we've always described the internet, is we've always shown it as a cloud. But what you have in a typical LAN, if I could get this thing to erase, what you have in a typical LAN is you have a building that is connected to the internet. Okay, so you have a building that's connected to the internet through a firewall to a router. The router then goes to switches, and in a client server, or in a server client or client server kind of setup, you'll see that there's servers up here where everything's like centrally stored, okay, or services are provided centrally. Instead of every user on the network having a printer connected to their workstation, you'll typically have, like, if this was one floor or one office area, you would have one printer assigned there, and all these computers would print to that one printer. And that would be handled by a print server. So in this one, in my example, I have the print server here. Mail server, typically mail servers are now hosted in the cloud through like Office or O365 or Office 365 with Microsoft, or even an offering by Google. They have their suite, their Google suite that's in the cloud and actually does mail services. On-premise mail servers are going the way of the Dido, or whatever you want to call it. So you have a directory server and typically a file server. So in a client server kind of setup, you will actually have these systems down here. When someone tries to log on here, they're not actually logging onto this machine. This machine is communicating through the network to the directory server, checking to make sure that that user is authentic. If that user is authentic, the password matches, everything matches, it will then go back down and authorize that user to use this computer. So in a client server setup, all the computers are usually part of what they call active domain or active directory domain structure. And so all their permissions are actually centrally stored, and you can't log on to them. So no one machine holds its own authentication set. Now, that's a client server setup. This is a LAN. This is typically what you'll run into. So another type of LAN is a home LAN. And in this one, we'll also describe a wireless LAN. And so here's a typical home for you in this day and age. You'll have your wireless router that, you know, either your ISP will provide to you. Excuse me. Either your ISP will give to you, and hopefully you're not really using that as your main connection, but you'll have that router, and then you'll have it connected, or your cable modem, and then you'll have that connected to, let's say, a Linksys or a Netgear wireless router. So typically your wireless router acts as your firewall and everything like that if you have it set up and updated. But here's not only an example of a home LAN, okay, but it's an example of a wireless LAN as well. Okay, so the difference between a LAN, a pure definition of a LAN, and a wireless LAN is one is physically connected via a cable and one is not. So one communicates over the airwaves versus being connected with a cable. Okay, whether you're looking at a corporate network that exists in one building or one that exists in your home, a LAN is down to that. It can be on one floor of a building, it can be a whole building, it can be your house. So typically a LAN doesn't stretch beyond one building or one floor. So the next one that we'll have is a CAN, or Campus Area Network. They've also changed this to a corporate area network, as not to confuse people. But the way I'm trying to lay this out is from what they actually test you for, and you're going to get a lot of questions on. So what we've done is we've gone from one building or one LAN to multiple buildings, okay, and multiple LANs. Now, the important thing to understand about a campus area network or a corporate area network is you need to understand that these will exist in one plot of land, okay? So if you see here, I got North-South Street and West-East Street, and it's on a corner of a street, right? So I assume that, you know, if there's another street up here, maybe this company is taking a block and they have multiple buildings in that block. This would be considered a campus or a corporate network, okay? And it can span multiple buildings within one geographical location, okay? So if you put your finger on a map and your finger ended up at a cross street, that would be one geographical location, and that's where a CAN would exist, okay? So you may see in my diagrams, I have the internet connected to a firewall to a router outside of a building. Just assume that these buildings are, or these firewalls and routers are actually within a building. And in this diagram here, you'll see that the buildings are actually connected via fiber connection from one building to the next. Okay, that would be some like an underground conduit kind of setup. They could also be connected via wireless from building to building, point to point. That would probably be the worst idea because wireless is not exactly that fast unless you're going with like 802.11 AC, and then that's got limitations on it. So fiber is usually a lot faster and much more reliable, especially if you're working with a big campus. So if you've ever been on a college campus or your high school campus is big, typically that's what we're talking about, is one geographical location, multiple buildings connected together create a CAN, or a corporate area network. Also, CompTIA references it as a campus area network, but pretty soon, probably in the next version, they'll use corporate as well. So now that we've talked about two different sizes of networks. We've talked about LANs and we've talked about CANs, okay? And as we go up in structure, you'll see that they just get bigger and bigger. So the thing that you need to understand is, and it's kind of important to talk about it now rather than wait a little bit later in the video, but it's important to understand that you'll always have a LAN. If you build a network, the smallest segment of that is going to be a LAN, or a local area network. And so if let's say you're in a campus area network, if you call that a WAN, or a wide area network, it's not only wrong, but it will be wrong on the exam, okay? CompTIA is very particular about what you call different size networks when you're talking about LANs, CANs, and MANs, and so on and so forth. So be very vigilant to understand the different sizes, and understand that different sizes. Oh, hold on there. Let me get rid of that and get rid of that. Okay, so be very vigilant on the different sizes of networks because CompTIA will test you on these, and they are very particular. So if you think, oh, well, I have multiple buildings in a location, there's multiple LANs, so that's a WAN, that's a wide area network, you would be incorrect, okay? And the reason why I have to mention this is in the industry, a lot of technicians will get lazy and call a network that they have where they have multiple locations within the same city or same location, they'll call those WANs and they would be incorrect. Okay, the correct term for it would, if it's in one geographic location, being on like a corner of a street, it would be CAN. Okay, and then our next one would be, let me switch back. Our next one would be MEMS, or Metropolitan Area Network. A metropolitan area network can be a single building, another campus, another single building, another campus, another single building. Okay? For example, let's say that this one is your headquarters. So you have a campus of like 5 buildings. Okay? So you would have multiple LANs in this area, and each one of the buildings in your corporate office or corporate campus, each building would be considered a LAN. The 5 buildings together would be considered a CAN, or a corporate area network, or campus area network. And then when you have multiple locations within a geographical location, either it being a city, in this case the city of Los Angeles, or the county, you could say the county of Los Angeles, which is kind of bigger than this. So you'll see that this goes from Los Angeles to Anaheim, to Santa Ana, all these Torrance, all of them refer to themselves as their separate cities. If you go to Torrance and say that you're in LA, they'll get mad at you. If you go to Anaheim and say that you're in Los Angeles, they'll kick you out. Just know that if it's in a geographic location where you have either a city or a county, and you have multiple locations in that county, for example, where I live, they have Kern Regional Healthcare, and Kern Regional Healthcare has multiple locations just in Kern County, they would be considered a metropolitan area network. And of course, it would be a private network. Okay, and again, with the firewall and the router, assume that those are in like one of the buildings and they're just connected. Now, these connections between these locations could be lines that they've purchased and ran themselves, or dedicated trunks that they've purchased from communications companies, or they could be just going through the web through like dedicated site-to-site VPNs or something like that, or a MPX or not MPX, MPLS, something like that. If they're going through like a MPLS, which is a dedicated line, this would be another way. So even though we're not depicting the internet here, these would still be considered private network because only the corporation has access to it. It may be going through the internet or cloud, but since each one of these locations are directly communicating with each other through the cloud, it's still considered a private network, and in this case it would be called a metropolitan area network. So going from city, now we finally go to our WAN. So we're going to talk about WANs now, and WANs are wide area networks. Okay, wide area networks span vast areas. And you'll notice in this depiction of it, the cloud I actually took out. You don't see the cloud here, and the reason why you do not see the cloud here is, number one, if you got communication going like this across the world for a company or a client or anything like that, more than likely they're going through the cloud to make this happen. This could be different data center locations for them if they're like a ISP provider themselves. But the idea is these links between each other are dedicated links. What you see here is what I'm going to talk in a previous, not in previous, but I'm going to talk in a future video. These links are redundant links, and this would be considered what they call mesh topology, which I'll talk about later. But a wide area network can be as small as the United States. For example, if we decided that we were going to have a location in California and then have a location in, I guess that building looks like it could be like in Tennessee or something like that, or even in Minnesota. You know, the fact that it goes over a vast distance, okay, the fact that it goes over a vast distance, that would be now defined as a WAN, or a wide area network. So it can go over a vast distance, or it can go it can go on the same continent or go multiple continents. Basically, just get the idea that a WAN is a very large network, and so you know, just understand the sizes because they will again quiz you on it as far as the exam is concerned. Next, we're going to talk about PANs. PANs is not like Peter Pan or something like that. This is called a personal area network. And very simply, it's the kind of the smallest network that really exists. And typically, it's defined as you providing your own personal connection. So let's imagine that you've got your cell phone here. You've got your cell phone here, and this cell phone you've set up as being a wireless access point or a personal wireless access point area. Okay, you could be sharing with your laptop, your camera. Let's say you have a GoPro, and it's connected Bluetooth to your phone. That's a short distance travel. Typical Bluetooth will only go about 30 feet reliably. A tablet could be connected either directly to the internet itself. Your watch, let's say you have like an Apple Watch or a Android equivalent, like a Samsung watch that communicates with your phone, or wireless headphones that communicate with your phone, or even your laptop. Things that communicate in your personal area are considered a PAN, and this is like the smallest network that you'll refer to. And again, it's a personal area network, okay? And we'll have a little bit more fun with this in a second. And finally, we talk about SANs. And SANs is a storage area network. And you may notice this diagram from earlier. This was the building that I showed you before. And you have your LAN, or your local area network, that exists within that building. Okay, and then we said that this is a client-server setup. So you have your clients down here, and you have your servers up here. Well, in this day and age, most servers are virtualized. And we'll talk about that in a future video, get deeper into that. But whether it's a physical box, meaning you can touch it, or it's a virtualized box that exists on a physical box that you have at the location, the virtual or physical box will typically have a back end to it for a storage network. So you'll have either dedicated appliances from, let's say, Pure Storage or Nimble or something like that, or even HP. HP does some server racks, and we'll talk about that in future videos. But you'll have a storage area network where you have a bunch of storage on the back end. These can be quite huge. The company I currently work for, our back end storage is quite large. It's not quite a petabyte, but it's got a lot of, we have a lot of storage, and that storage is redundant. So it's connected together via fiber or a what they call fiber link. And typically what we do is, for redundancy, this storage will be connected to 2 different switches or more, and you'll see redundant connections, and typically that will be repeated on the server side. There will be redundant connections as well. The idea behind this is if this switch died or you had to do maintenance on this switch, you would never lose your connection to your storage network. And it's just a built-in kind of redundancy kind of setup. But what you need to understand about SAN stands for Storage Area Network, and it's typically a dedicated network for storage. If you notice here, these switches are not connected to either the LAN or the public network. They are connected in the back end. They have typically their own backbone, and they will not share a network connection with the rest of the network. Now, you may say, oh, well, this is expensive, and you would be right. But companies that use SANs or storage area networks typically need to make sure that all communication that happens on their storage area network is that of storage-related communication, and not Joe Blow on computer number 3 here watching YouTube or Netflix, congesting the rest of the network traffic. If let's say, for example, we took all of our storage area network storage and put it over here on the main segment of the network, that would become a problem, because if all these guys are watching YouTube, watching my beautiful videos or H3 or something like that, or watching Netflix or anything like that, the problem is they will congest the network, and it'll basically starve these services of getting access to the storage. So that's, again, in like data centers and big server farms, they'll typically have a SAN setup versus having the storage on each individual system. The neat thing about SANs is you could have a file server completely die, like the hardware or even the virtual machine, and you haven't lost any of your information. Also, the nice part of SAN storage networks or storage area networks is typically the backup solutions that you have for these. You can do things like snapshotting and stuff like that, right? So one of the things I didn't cover before that I want to sort of cover here, and it's covered in the chapter 1 of the guidebook that we're going through, but is not part of the objectives, but you need to know the difference. They talk about Intranet, Intranet, and Extranet. Okay, so easily put, Internet, whenever you refer to the internet, okay, when you refer to the internet, you're basically saying that your user here is going to the internet or the cloud for a service. Okay, so that would be considered internet. If you go to msn.com or you go to YouTube or anything like that, you are using an internet or cloud service. Okay, the fact that it's on the internet is why it's called an internet communication. We also have something called intranet. Intranet is a service that's typically provided by your servers in your network. Let's say, for example, you have a SharePoint website hosted on your file server, okay? And that's typically where people get this term confused. But basically, an intranet service is anything that's provided locally to the LAN or your MAN, WAN, anything that's private network provided, okay? So if you have a service that's provided by this server and it's provided to your clients, whether this, again, is a LAN, WAN, MAN, CAN, as long as it's within your private organization, that would be considered an intranet service. An extranet service is if, let's say you had a user in the internet, let's say he's, let's go back here. I didn't create a slide for this. So let's say you have a user that's normally based in Los Angeles, okay? Or that building looks more like it's in Arizona or Nevada. So let's say they're in that location and they have to travel to another location. Let's say, for example, they have to travel to Brazil. So they're in Brazil, and obviously you don't have a location in Brazil, or you have it somewhere in Peru, right? So you don't have a location in Brazil, but they need to still connect to the office. Or it could be a contractor, or it could be, let's say, an employee that's traveled to Brazil for vacation. Okay, he's in Rio de Janeiro and having a great time. Well, he still needs to be able to connect to applications and services that are provided by your corporation. Let's say he uses like an ERP system or a inventory control system, and he has to check inventory for a client. Okay, obviously, if that's not hosted in the cloud, if it's not hosted in the internet, and it's hosted in your intranet, he needs to be able to get access to it. So typically what you'll do is you'll set up like a VPN connection. Again, that will be covered in a future video, but you'll set up a connection that allows him to communicate, let's say, with the Peru facility because it's close by, or if there's no facility in Peru, he connects to the home office in Nevada, okay? He or she will be able to access the application that's hosted by your company, and that VPN connection or that connection that you provide him or her outside of your company's private network would be considered an extranet, okay? So further details on that are available in the book, and I'd be happy to answer questions on that if you have any questions on it. So that's the rough cut on it. Let me close that and close that. And I got 4 viewers right now. Is there any questions? Does anyone have any questions on what I've covered so far? Chat is open. You're welcome to ask. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you have any questions or you have any suggestions, I'm also open to those. Just because, again, this is a new thing, and I'm hoping to get it out here soon. So the first video that I'll have out, my wife's birthday is tomorrow, so more likely I won't have the video out tomorrow, but I plan on having the content that we recorded tonight, plus probably some other information if needed. If I didn't get the cuts that I wanted, I'll have that out probably Tuesday evening. So the hope is again, these live streams are rough cuts. Some of the content hopefully will end up in the actual video itself that I publish online through my YouTube channel. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, but at least it was a dry run. So if you've learned anything from this, I hope I've helped out. The next live stream, I don't know how many videos I'm going to get done before it. I'm hoping to have quite a few. But I plan on, in this next week, before the next live stream, I plan on having basically all of Objective 1.5 done and ready. So if you look at the objectives, okay, I have one section highlighted, and this video that I've been working on covers types. I plan on producing 4 videos in total for this objective, and that will be wired topologies will be next, wireless topologies will be after that, and technologies that facilitate, if I could talk, facilitate, Internet of Things will be another video. So, and by the end of this week, I hope to have all of that objective completed and published. I will be posting, as promised, the videos on Patreon prior to posting them on my YouTube channel. I will post them 24 hours ahead of time or more before I actually publish them on YouTube. And as I described earlier in this live stream, I am going to have to do the monetization side of it because that's the only way YouTube will get my videos out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the videos on Patreon for at least 24 to 48 hours before they go on to YouTube. When they're on Patreon, I will have the monetization side of it turned off. And so there will be no ads on that side of it. When I let it go live to my YouTube, I will turn on the monetization part of it and kind of go from there, just because, again, the only way I can get YouTube to basically publicize my videos is if I do that. As a small channel, they'll do some of it, but not a whole lot. So again, I'm looking at chat. I see that I got 5 viewers right now. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, ask. If you have any questions outside of these, or you have any suggestions, feel free. I guess I'll babble for another 10 minutes probably, and then I'll end this live stream. So I'm open to suggestions if anyone has any questions, or obviously suggestions and stuff like that. It's nice to have some viewers. That's the cool thing. So, so I guess while I'm waiting, whether someone joins and wants to ask a question, one of the things I will talk about, I guess, is these live streams. I plan not only to have them, as part of my recording process, but I would like to bring in some friends that I have, whether it be through Skype or it be through physical presence in my studio, which I have going on here. I call it the studio. It certainly is set up like that right now. But what I want to do is have some people come in that work in the industry and talk more about it. It'd be nice to get some people I work through, either VMUG or something like that, or even friends on LinkedIn that do this for a living. They would like to share some knowledge and get other people excited about the industry that I'm passionate about and love, and there's been some good patches and there's been some bad patches, and either way, I really love what I do, and I hope that shows. and I hope you know, these videos are helpful to people, and kind of go from there. I mean, I'm gonna do these as consistently as I can, and bring you along the journey, and see where it goes, and see if we can make something of this. So yeah, I will. So Wednesday I will be having another live stream, and I'll schedule that tonight. So you'll see me again Wednesday. On this following Sunday, I may or may not have a stream, or a live stream. And if I do have one, it will be from a hotel room, and it will be really just getting online just to talk about tech and talk about certifications and stuff. I'll try to plan something out for it, but I hope to go live this Sunday, this next Sunday. But if I don't hold it against me, because I am traveling for work, and I will not be near my studio during that time. So therefore, it will be kind of hard to stream. So I will try to have something worked out, and kind of go from there. I think this new microphone setup I got would probably travel well with me, so I'll try to do that. Take maybe 1 or 2 webcams with me, more than likely 1. So next Sunday I will stream again, and I'll have something planned for that. Probably won't be a content video. It'll probably be talking about history or something, or if someone has some suggestions. Again, I'm open to suggestions, so if you're watching this live stream after it's been live and you're watching the recorded version, please put a comment in the comment section below, and I will read them, and maybe your suggestion would be what I cover in the next video or live stream. So next Sunday I will be on the road, and I will be in the same location that Wednesday. So and not only that, the streaming times may be Eastern time. So instead of streaming at 8 o'clock Pacific time and going from there, I may be streaming at 5 o'clock Pacific time rather than 8 o'clock. I don't know, I may adjust for it just to keep the same time, but that's about it. So unless anyone has any other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and close out this stream. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. Hopefully you see, if you've watched my previous streams, hopefully you've seen some growth in it, and you see where I'm trying to go with it, and hopefully I'm showing improvement. Hopefully the audio is getting better. It's about as good as it's going to get until I treat the walls in here with like sound foam or something. But I don't exactly have the funds for that right now. But if you like what I do and you would like to help me out a little bit, I don't foresee getting anything really from monetization. If you would please check out my Patreon. The link is going to be in the description of this video. I have some lower tiers. Anything helps, and I just want to keep this mission going. Hopefully make the wife a little bit happier, because I'm sure she doesn't want me spending any more money on this. But we'll go from there. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy that this stream went somewhat without a hitch this time. Again, 3rd time's the charm. Hopefully the next stream is just as good. And please, again, put things in the description, and I'll read them, and we'll go from there. If you have any suggestions on what I'm covering, I am open to that as well. So thank you very much. I hope you guys all have an awesome rest of your Sunday, what's left of it. And I'll see you next Wednesday, or this Wednesday coming up. Again, I'll be streaming at 8 o'clock Pacific time this Wednesday, and I'll put that schedule up right after this stream ends. So thank you again, and you have a wonderful evening.